All right, time to take a look at the SONNLER MIG 160 welder. Okay. So we got a clamp. It's got a nice strong clamp to it. And we can see in there we got plenty of angles depending on the style of stick that we want to use. And we have a standard twist lock style connection. We got our grounding clamp. It has a fairly good spring on there, and it has the same style connection and a nice thick cable. We got our instructions, and we also got a couple extra MIG tips. We got a 0.8 and a 1.0. Well, that's cool. It actually comes with MIG wire. Nice. So that is full-on vacuum packed, so we don't have to worry about this getting any kind of corrosion. So this is SONNLER brand. It is gasless Flux Core wire, and it is 0.035. We've got a little hammer with a wire brush on it, so that's nice. We've got an adapter, so this is going to be good for 120 or 240. And this is the welder. So this is pretty cool. I like seeing a welder that's got both arc and MIG depending on what we want to use. For the MIG, this is flux core only, so you're not going to be using gas with this, which for me is going to be perfectly great because that means you can work with this thing outdoors. You don't have to worry about the wind blowing the gas away. So these things can be quite fantastic. We've got our on-off switch here on the back. We do have active cooling. And I actually like that they made this adapter this way. So most of these welders that have these style adapters, they got the big 240 connection attached on the adapter. So this would plug into the wall, and then this is a 120 standard. So what that means is if you leave the adapter plugged into a 240 outlet and then somebody goes and plugs something into that, it will fry whatever equipment you plug into it. But with this, you don't have to worry about that because you cannot make that mistake. So that's pretty cool. It does come with a strap, and it also has a handle. So it does come with that 0.09 tip, so we can use that 0.035 wire right out of the box, or we can get different size wire and use one of these tips. We got our trigger, we got a little hanger hook, and it looks like they had the strain relief disconnected for the packaging, so we'll just go ahead and throw that guy back on. Okay. So we got a decent length cord on here, so that's good. So we got this little connection right here that is attached to the bottom of the machine. So this is attached to this torch right here. Now it even says right here, when using flux core wire, earth clamp connect to positive. So the torch, we're going to connect to the negative. Just put it in and twist it, and then the ground, we will connect to positive. So the reason we got options there is because depending on what you're going to be using, if you're going to be using the arc, you might want to swap that around. If you're going to be using DC TIG, then you're going to have it the same way. But since we're going to be using MIG, we're going to be using it just like this with the ground on the positive. Now I'm going to disconnect this just to get it out of the loop, and I'm going to plug it in so we can see what these lights do. So we can see right now we are at 20 amps. So if we want to adjust that, that is this dial right over here. And then this dial is going to change depending on what we have this set to. So right now we're on MMA, which is arc. We can set that to MIG or TIG. So if you had a TIG torch, we can actually use this with that. So we'll use MIG. Then we got synergistic or manual. So if we want to adjust the wire speed, we put that on manual, and then we can turn that up or down with this. If we don't want to set the wire speed, we can just put it on synergic, and then we can set it to 0.8 or 1.0, which is a little odd because this actually came with a 0.9, but we'll go ahead and set that to a 1.0. And then all we have to do is set the amps, and the machine will automatically set the wire speed to compensate. So that's kind of cool. I like that they got that. So I got it unplugged. Let's go ahead and get some wire in it. First thing I want to know is, what is this wheel capable of? So this is the wire feeding wheel. This is a 0.8 on one side and a 1.0 on the other. So you can see there's a slightly different size gap there to grab that wire. Now that's a little weird because this wire that it came with is a 0.9. So this actually isn't designed for this machine. Now can we make this work? Yeah, we probably can make this work, but it's not ideal. If you're going to buy this to weld, I would probably go get some other wire that is either a 0.8 or a 1.0. And the reason that can become important is because if this gap is too small, it's not going to be able to grab that wire very well. And if it's too big, again, it's not going to be able to grab that wire very well. Now it looks like the 1.0 is a little bit better, so I'm going to use that. So we're going to have the 1.0 facing out. So that is going to drop right back on here. And then we put this little cap back on. Okay, to pull this off, we're just going to push it in and then twist it to the left. And we got a little spring on there for tension. And this cover can come off. And when we put this roll in, we want to make sure we're putting it in so it is going to feed counterclockwise. So it's going to be entering from the bottom. So that is going to go like this. There we go. So for this part, it's a good idea to have some needle nose pliers because we want to get that fed in through this little area. We want to make sure we're not going to let go of it after we get a hold of it because we don't want this spool to unspring. So you got this wire up here that's all bent up. We're going to cut that off because we want this to be as straight as possible. You can see I'm holding the spool in place with one hand, and I'm going to feed this in with the other. And we just need to get that to feed in the other side. There we go. Just like that. So now we can close this guy down and lock it back in place. And we want this to be kind of tight, but not too tight. If you make it overly tight, it is not going to feed very well. So just a little bit of tension on there. Now I can let go, and it should stay in place. It could be a good idea to get some MIG welding pliers because we want to remove this nozzle. just because we don't have anything that's going to interfere with that feeding. So now I'm going to plug it back in, turn it back on, and you don't want to put your hands inside the machine. I just want to leave this open so I can make sure nothing is getting tangled up. I'm going to straighten this cord out as straight as I can get it and press and hold the trigger. Okay, so I can see that it is feeding. It's not binding up anywhere, so everything looks good so far. I'm just holding down the trigger. I'm going to wait until it comes out the other end. It took it a minute, but there it is. Now we can feed the tip back on and thread that back in place. Now if you want to, you can use your pliers and you can crank it back on, or you don't have to, you can just leave it hand tight and that's usually fine. Okay, we are ready to go. So, let's go ahead and get a good, let's say about 53 amps. So, I'm just going to keep that, let's go to 0. Let's see what that does. Slag. It's Flux Core, so it's going to have slag. So there it is on the top. That is pretty darn excellent. You can kind of see the penetration just underneath. But yeah, as soon as I start getting good at welding, that's actually going to work pretty darn well. I'm curious how this is going to work on Synergy. Actually, it worked pretty well. I didn't hear a lot of skipping or anything like that. It still flowed fairly well. So all you have to do really is set the amps where you want it. Let's try 70. It actually worked pretty well. I mean, 70 amps is pretty hot for this 1/8" thick plate. But the fact of the matter is it can weld it no problem. And if you're a beginning welder and you don't have to worry about wire speed, you can just set the amps and it'll do the rest for you. So there's your 50 amps, there's your 70 amps. So you can see that was getting pretty darn hot. But she can definitely weld. You want to hold stuff together, this guy will do it.